Welcome everyone, Questini here with the discussion about Eternity's End, patch 9.2, the final major patch of the Shadowlands, or at least the conclusion of the storyline of the Shadowlands. Whether or not we get another patch after 9.2 until the next World of Warcraft expansion is a different discussion. Blizzard was asked about this in an interview. What they had to say is, look, we might have a 9.3, but this is the patch that's going to resolve the storyline. So the story ends here with us defeating the jailer, dealing with Anduin, whatever happens to him, we don't know, and unlocking the secrets of the first ones. That really gives me a very strong Warhammer vibe, because we've gone from the Titans creating the universe and all that to these first ones creating the universe, Azeroth and the Shadowlands. Anyway, let's take a look at their trailer, at their preview. I'm gonna comment on that and then comment on their post on their own website, and as well as other things as well.
The Shadowlands story pulls together threads that started in Warcraft 3 and wove their way through many of our expansions. We approached it like a drama in 3 acts. Now, as the third and final act begins of the saga, we need to stop the jailer from reaching his ultimate goal, which is to rewrite the rules of reality. Eternity's End serves as the final chapter of one book of the Warcraft saga.
I'm not quite certain how the storyline started from Warcraft 3 made their way in the Shadowlands. The jailer was never even hinted at until PFA, and now it's like, oh, we started with these story threads from Warcraft 3. It's like, what? Arthas, Sylvanas? Sure, Arthas has been kind of hinted at in Shadowlands, talked about certainly, and then you have Sylvanas. That's the only connection really from Warcraft 3. And when we're talking about World of Warcraft, sure, there's some characters that have made a major impact into the Shadowlands, but the whole thing about the jailer, the Shadowlands itself, that was barely known, really, until BFA, and then we start getting hints, of course, as they were building the story in BFA, leading up to the Shadowlands. But it's not exactly what it's like. We have these story threads. Come on, Blizzard.
The jailer has the advantage. He has seized the sigils of the leaders of the Four Covenants.
We see Sylvanas realize that she's been a pawn in the jailer's game this entire time, and she refuses to serve him, and she's taken prisoner.
The jailer is able to open a portal to who knows where, taking Anduin with him.
And the Primus had us take some time to retrieve some new sigils.
Now we have gathered our forces. We are working with the Primus to open our own gateway to pursue the jailer to this realm unlike any we've seen before.
The Primus opens a portal, and we come into this alien land. It's completely white, foggy. We're walking on water for some reason.
They can only make out some shapes, some figures there, some crazy devices and consoles.
Eventually, you make your way to a giant gate, and behind it lies Zereth Mortis.
Zereth Mortis was created by the first ones, and it is intended to create afterlives.
Think of it as being tucked away in the fabric of the Shadowlands itself. It's kind of the behind the scenes of these afterlives that we've journeyed to.
It's the land where the progenitors, the first ones who created all of the realms of the Shadowlands, this is their workshop.
They've created everything we've experienced in Azeroth and Shadowlands, and even realms we haven't discovered yet.
So is it that they just created the Shadowlands, or they created Azeroth as well? Because that's kind of a big question. Because if their thing they're going for is that they just created the Shadowlands, okay, fair enough. But if the argument they're making is, oh, they created everything we experienced in Azeroth, as she just said, then that's kind of another major retcon, as I mentioned before. It's like we're moving from the Titans creating the universe to these first ones, and it's like Warhammer 40k all over again, or Warhammer Fantasy, whatever you will, all over again. Also, I gotta say that that t-shirt, that rainbow t-shirt that you just saw earlier, it's yeah, kind of on the nose, Blizzard. It's like, we get what you're trying to do. It's like, if you think you're gonna, people don't necessarily care about you being inclusive. People just care about you not being complete pieces of shit as a company. there's kind of a difference between the two of them. I'm just gonna make that point because that's what people really got bothered about. Not, oh, we're not diversified now. No, that's not really the point. But okay.
These first ones built the universe as far as we know, but their intentions or methods are completely unknown.
But of course, the Jailer's presence here is disrupting this process. And we're working to push back against the Jailer's forces and protect this place.
I think the artists have done a fantastic job. And I know they did a lot of research and they looked at a lot of real-life examples of very strange places in the real world.
As a team, we were really trying to make this place as alien as possible. So we really wanted to make everything feel completely unique and completely different. Our trees here are floating. We have stones that are floating. We even have the massive Forge of Afterlives that is floating in the center of the zone.
And true to its name, it's something that is kind of putting together a new afterlife to be sent out into the Shadowlands.
We have this water all around you because water is really the catalyst for any kind of creation.
It's actually unlike any other water that we've seen before. This is actually water that we can walk on. It almost creates like a threshold between Zereth Mortis and some other kind of more primordial space right below it. Everything you see in Zereth Mortis has a purpose, an intention behind it. For us, it was really important to find ways to convey that intention in the environment itself. And one of the ways in which we did it was through this duality between a lush and a dry biome. In the dry biome, we see perhaps what the original look of the zone was when the progenitors were first establishing this workspace for themselves. And in the lush biome, we see the result of their experimentation with plant life and fauna and things like that.
These are all test beds for what we'll eventually see elsewhere.
From there, we started thinking about what kinds of creatures would be in this place that are fundamentally prototypes. There's terraforming here. There's creatures that are building afterlives. We tried to really stretch and think what that might be like.
My personal favorite includes the giant armored snail, and we also have a progenitor chicken, which answers the question of what came first.
These first ones who crafted Zereth Mortis, what they left behind were the Automa, meant to take care of the place and make sure that it fulfilled its function to create afterlives.
The Automa have several different classes, and you can see this in their silhouettes. We have the builders, we have the protectors, we have the casters, and each one of them have a specific role within the Shadowlands. And then you'll also discover the Jiro, which are a part of the Automa. They're a little more quirky, they have a little more personality, they are a little more sentient than the other Automa, so some of them even split off to pursue their own desires.
Unfortunately, when we found our way in, Devourers also found their way in. They are ravenous.
They're consuming this weird energy, and it's causing them to mutate and to fall apart.
And the Automa, where they are confronted by them, some of them are fighting them off.
And so it's going to take some time for them to understand that we're here trying to help them drive out this threat.
So we're going to fight these Automa. They're probably going to be the main foes, or many of them are going to be the main foes, I guess, in the open world that we're going to be dealing with. By the sound of it, it's like, that whole thing, okay, expect that we're making a new zone, or we're making it look unique. It's like, we have a purpose, etc. Okay, all good. And then here's your main enemies to deal with in the open world. That's how it sounded like, really. Enlightened.
Fortunately, we've got some allies. There are some enlightened brokers here that we're going to be working with.
But it's a broker that arrived here quite a long time ago and has had a change of heart from looking at the world as a very transactional place to seeing this place as a holy place, a sacred place. We meet an enlightened one named Fareem, and Fareem needs our assistance, and in return, he leads us to Haven,
which is a hub that has been created out of progenitor ruins, and this is where the Enlightened really have made their home.
Haven serves as our foothold here, as well as use it as a base of operations and really start unlocking the mysteries of this land.
The enlightened brokers are intent on protecting and preserving the work of the first ones here, but now they're seeing Zoval bring his forces against the Automa and tear up the land, and they are eager for assistance.
The brokers themselves are very ostentatious, they're very into materialism, but the Enlightened are not that at all. They have relinquished this material way, and you'll see this reflected in their clothes. They're a little tattered, they're a little faded, because it just isn't important to them anymore. They're just here for the pursuit of knowledge.
When players arrive, they're kind of fishes out of water. And one of the first things that we have to do is start learning how to communicate with the Automa. Think of it as a kind of runic language, based in symbols.
We will bond with a small construct who's pretty cute, actually. And with his assistance and the assistance of Farim, we will learn eventually how to understand the symbols through the cipher of the first ones.
We'll uncover different parts of this alphabet and start to learn more about the progenitors and Zereth Mortis itself.
It will allow you to unlock new and different forms of content. So that can range from daily quests to new options on the vendors to places to explore and new side quests that open up. So it's really the gateway to exploring the far reaches of Zereth Mortis.
As we looked into the development of Cipher of the First Ones, we wanted something that was unique that players haven't seen before. A little bit of familiarity, but something that takes that to the next level.
We really involved the whole team in this creative process. We worked with our UI team to be able to represent those through text, through these things talking and seeing them on screen in chat bubbles and in our chat window. Little by little, these kind of runes start taking shape into words that we recognize. But it's going to be a process that unfolds over the course of playing through Eternity's End.
So that's going to be the main thing you're going to spend your time on in terms of unlocking the zone, so to speak, like the story content, I guess. Several hours at the very least, maybe even more than that, maybe a lot more than that, in order to unlock the daily content of the zone. At least that's how it sounds like to me. Is it particularly interesting? It's not. It doesn't sound horrible, but let's just say not the most exciting thing I've heard. And that's like, if this is what we're gonna be doing for the first few hours in 9.2, I mean, we're kind of interested in dealing with Anduin, dealing with that. It's like, oh, let's explore this new afterlife. Blizzard, just get over with. I'll be honest with you. I think I can speak for a lot of people here. We just want this whole thing over with. Shadowlands' story is, I mean, I get it. Some people like it and all that, but a lot of people are just kind of over Shadowlands. But anyway.
The Automa speak in this kind of musical language. They don't talk the way that we mortals are used to speaking. The sound team was super excited. They jumped in, they started prototyping all kinds of different sounds. We listened, we gave feedback, and we really ended up in a cool place. As you're playing through and gradually unlocking the language, you'll be able to see those words that they're saying, but still hear those tones. The jailer's true goal has never really been to escape the Maw or to gain power. He's been focused on reaching this place called the Sepulcher, to go into this place of power and to really rewrite the rules of the universe. We'll learn that the jailer has breached the Sepulcher of the First Ones, and this becomes our new raid for Eternity's End. We're going to gather our forces, we're going to pursue the jailer inside. Once you go inside the Sepulcher, there's some mind-blowing visuals. This is a place that should not be able to exist according to the laws of physics as we know them on Azeroth. Just looking out into this impossible sky of seeing these ancient works of the First Ones, those laws don't apply to anything we see here.
Among the bosses that we're going to face in Sepulcher of the First Ones include the jailer's forces, maybe a dreadlord or two that you haven't tied up loose ends with. We'll face a consular. This is similar to a being like Algalon, but the jailer's gotten to it and has infused his domination magic into the consular. Before we get to the jailer, however, we need to get to Anduin first. Our hope is that we can learn whatever Anduin knows about domination magic. We need to be able to resist it, or better yet, fight it.
So that's a rating tier. From what I heard in from what I've read, that is, we're not going to have all of the bosses be unlocked. It's going to be time gated. Well, make of that what you will. And we are going to be dealing with Anduin, I think, from the very start. He might very well be the final boss we have access to at the start when the raid comes out. That could very well be the case. And hey, look! Raid sets, tier sets, they're back. Imagine that, Blizzard. Imagine that. It only took you so long.
We know players have been waiting a long time for the return of tier sets, and as devs, we have too.
It's a great blend of progenitor magic, golds, and metals, along with those class-defining silhouettes. Wolves for shamans, pointy things for rogues. It's going to look amazing.
Our class and combat team was super excited to bring class sets back. This is something that felt really right for the story. We're in the final act of the Shadowlands saga. We're here literally on the brink at eternity's end. And what better place to fully unleash the power of these classes? And I think players will really enjoy the return of those class sets just as much as the team enjoyed making them.
How do you make something that is mystical and magical and incomprehensible and yet understandable? I think we've done a good job of finding that line.
The team as a whole has been working so hard, and we are so excited to get this out for everyone.
We're gonna get new mounts, new pets.
A bit horrifying for me, but exciting for some is the fact that, some of the spider mounts can now fly. Who needs flying spiders? But that's also going to be a cool thing for people.
We have updates to professions, to soulbinds, to conduits. There's a new dancing minigame in Darkmoon Fair.
I'm a story guy, so I'm super geeked about watching players kind of piece together those little lore tidbits. That's what excites me as well.
I'm really looking forward to Season 3 of Mythic Plus. Tazavesh is getting split into 2 dungeons. If you're a raider, if you chase Keystone Master, if you're an achievement collector, there's something for everyone to do in this.
Shadowlands is like the final chapter of one book of the Warcraft saga, and our team is already hard at work on the next stories to come. Can't talk about them quite yet, but when the time is right, we're going to be really excited to share them with you.
And that would be it with regards to what Blizzard has to show us with Eternity's End, the developer preview. It's nice that we got tier sets back. There's more pictures on that. I'm going to go over them on Wowhead. So on Wowhead, we can see the pictures that they have. So harness the power of the first ones by collecting distinctive class sets via raids, PvP, or mythic dungeons. Each set comes with powerful 2 and 4-piece sets, bonuses that complement your unique abilities. So this is how they look. We have Shaman, Rogue, Monk, DK, Priest, and Druid. And then finally, Hunter, Warrior, Demon Hunter, Mage, Warlock, and Paladin. I'm guessing this is probably the mythic version of it, and then we have some recolors, PvP version, LFR, normal, heroic versions. It will be interesting to see what's what. I'm guessing that the black color is probably going to be one of the lower tiers, not necessarily the lowest tier, but it's probably going to be the normal set, and then the white one is probably going to be the one you're seeing here in these 2 pictures. That's probably going to be the Mythic Plus one, or the Mythic rating one. When it comes to the idea of tier sets, just want to talk about that very quickly. It's fun to have them. Like, it's kind of funny to see that. It's kind of funny to see that. To see that developer saying, "Oh, it's like, I hope you're just as excited as we are." To which I reply, "You guys took them out, then didn't want to add them back in. Like, Blizzard didn't want to add tier sets back into the game, and it's like, oh, now we're very excited." It's like, okay, no. Let's be honest here, what's going on. Blizzard took them out. Now they're adding them back in because the outcry was fairly massive from the player base. They're doing it because people wanted them to do it. The importance of tier sets, the reason tier sets are important is because it's exciting. It's exciting getting a 2 set. It's exciting getting a 4 set. It's exciting building it. And hey, it's cool to actually have class armor, right? It's fun to have that distinctive class armor that you can use. So it's nice for them to change their mind, so to speak, even if the player base had to force them in order to do so. That's the first thing that I want to mention here when it comes to it. It is welcome that they are adding tier sets back into the game. It's very much a welcome development. And then, of course, we do have more to talk about, including their own post on their website. It's like, get ready for Eternity's End. Zoval, the elusive jailer and ruler of the Maw and the Shadowlands, has made his next move. New zones, Zereth Mortis, the Enlightened, so they're going to be your hub. Decode the Cipher of the first one, so I'm guessing that's going to be your main story focus, and you're and you may not be able to actually unlock it in just 1 week. In fact, this might take a while. I was just saying a couple hours. It might, now that I think about it, if this is going to replace the renown system, which is something that they've said, it might very well that the Cipher is going to take some time to actually unlock. New raid Sepulcher of the first ones, and class tier sets return, as well as other things like Mythic Plus season and PvP season 3. Tazavesh added to the Mythic Keystone dungeon rotation, will be split in 2 separate dungeons for seasonal content. Mounts and pets, updates to proficient and conduits, new dancing minigame to add the Dark Moon Fair, and much more. Dancing minigame, just going to mention that. It's like new dance moves or dancing minigame. I think we've been waiting for that since Wrath. I mean, it kind of just shows where Blizzard is as a company if they're doing something like that. Just pointing it out. They're not doing it because they're in a great situation. They're doing it because they want to do anything right now to please the player base, because people are really fucking angry at them. Though this is not necessarily going to be enough. Yes, Blizzard is re-adding some features that they took out with Battle for Azeroth, and they're adding dancing moves, which I see as the only major thing there that they're adding that's actually new. But there's of course more, because we do have developer interviews from MMO Champion. So story and lore, Shadowlands story arc was planned to have 3 acts, so 9.2 will be the finale of Shadowlands. There could be 9.3, but it's unlikely. Dealing with Anduin is the only way players will be able to confront the jailer, so Anduin is going to be a raid boss. Uther may be able to guide Sylvanas through these treacherous waters of having a soul return to the body after death. Now that's interesting, because Sylvanas of course had her soul ripped apart. It's something that's been shown in the cinematics where Arthas kills her, and now she has her soul fully reunited with her body. Tyrande and Sylvanas are in collision course, and there will be heavy interaction between those characters, and that is pivotal to the conclusion of Shadowlands. The patch will explain all Shadowlands storyline is actually of a series of storylines starting from Warcraft 3. I would believe that if they actually had a plan coming from Warcraft 3 all the way to this point. I don't see it. I'm sorry. You're making shit up as you go. Let's be clear on this. There is room for sweeping cosmic narratives and small personal stories alike. The team recognizes the players want to see small things that flesh out the world as well as a cosmic story. Many facets of the Warcraft universe are still waiting for us to explore in both the cosmic sense of Eternity's End and the more grounded events in Azeroth, featuring characters we know and love, and with many areas in Azeroth to be discovered. I mean, this is kind of the problem with Blizzard storytelling. I don't believe, or I don't think that until maybe some years ago, if even that they actually had a big plan for the future. Maybe a couple of years ago with some World of Warcraft expansions, they sat down and they decided, okay, this is what we're going to do. This expansion and that expansion, and they just leave themselves room to grow. But even then, I don't necessarily believe there. And I certainly don't believe that, we may have planned this from Warcraft. You're just making shit up. And they're also retconning stuff. But anyway, new raid has 11 bosses, with Anduin being the 8th boss. First week of new raid will take us up to Anduin, allowing us to take a closer look at the story. So there's going to be time gating, will be a very, very complex boss. Okay, what does that mean exactly? Are we going to look at another Black Hand, kill Jaden? I don't know. The final 3 bosses will be available on normal, heroic, and mythic difficulties during the 3rd week of the raid. Okay, the jailer will be the final boss of the new raid. The jailer fight will be a very dynamic room with pillars and fogs, and maybe the craziest boss the team has done. We'll see. Let's be clear on this. We shall see. I think that's something that's a very high bar for them to clear, and I think that they are not necessarily going to do it. With respect to him. I mean, they've had some amazing bosses. Shadowlands, not necessarily so much, but we'll see what they're doing. After defeating the first boss in the Sepulcher, you need to take a flight path to the next boss in an instance. As you travel, you get to see all the epic scenery, huge structures, and you get the sense of scale and fantasy. Okay, so a massive scale raid. That's actually really nice. Maybe some influence from Classic there, because Classic did have those raids, and we then had a period where raids were getting smaller and smaller, so they are certainly going with that bigger and bigger scale, one of the good things about Shadowlands. One wing of the raid is constantly creating new things and prototyping creatures, and one of the bosses in that wing is a prototype of the Pantheon of Death. Titans implications, really. We also have like an Algalon style boss fight. We'll see. So how is this related to the Titans? I guess we'll find out. In previous raids, everything led up to a moment of the final boss. This time we have big story moment with both Anduin and the Jailer. Okay, so we'll see if this is the epic conclusion that they want it to be. I'm not necessarily sold on it. Let me be honest on this. I'm not necessarily sold on it. I think a lot of people aren't interested in Shadowlands at this point. I'm not really seeing a lot here that will get people so very excited that they want to jump in on this on the very first opportunity. But then Zereth Mortis will be very large. Was an opportunity for the team to show a whole new level of WoW, Warcraft cosmology about this mystical and higher form of magic that we haven't been to before. Opportunities for you to get geared, to get you to where you can feel successful playing through Zereth Mortis. Zereth Mortis and its creatures, the Automa, speak with a runic pattern, so everything that they showed in that video is the first in-depth look at the founders, the cosmos and its cosmology, at the balance of power that governs the entire universe. So they're really going with the idea that, yeah, the founders created the universe, not the Titans. But, I mean, they kind of had already retconned that already, but this is just next level. No day and night cycle, that's actually interesting. It's neither a star nor a planet, but an area located at the heart of the ether of the universe itself. In the end, you'll have the flight and Zereth Mortis thanks to the decryption system. Tier sets are a combination of class fantasy and aesthetics from zones, creatures, and ecology of Zereth Mortis. Okay. Will be available through the raids and Great Vault. After Input 2 releases, you'll unlock the Forge of Creation and earn a new currency. This currency, along with an item from PvP or dungeons, can be transformed into a tier piece. It's supposed to work like a battle like protection or for people wanting to make new characters or catch-up method. So it's not just going to be, oh, you're doing dungeons or doing raids and you're getting your tier sets. You can also make them. Okay, nice. Less frustration there, less RNG, less bullshit RNG, which is nice after everything that they had. Legendary items, players will have access to new levels for legendary items that requires material that come from Zereth Mortis directly. So farming, great, grinding. You'll be able to equip 2 legendary items at once, 1 regular legendary, 1 covenant legendary. Okay, players will need to unlock the capacity to equip 2 legendary items, so something we're going to need to do through what they're changing the renown system to, I imagine. The PTR is coming in the next few weeks. Okay, so they're rolling this out soon. That's actually interesting. We did have that leak. It was showing that it was coming, that was going to come out in spring, that 9.2 was going to come out in spring. If this is true, this is going to match that. Of course, there are some things that are not going to match that leak. I'll talk about that towards the end here. The team will not add new levels of renown. No, they're just creating a whole new renown level. With Kel'Thuzan Mythic Mode, players come up with a strategy that the development team did not anticipate. For Kel'Thuzan and the Scribe of Doom, the two underwent successive nerfs in order to allow the middle guilds to defeat these bosses in weeks and months that follow. Okay. And then there's the raid schedule. During the first week of release of Eternity's End, the raid will not be open. So the first week it's not going to be open. Beginning with the second week, we'll open our normal and heroic. First 8 bosses. It will not be possible to find final bosses. Then they're going to allow those final bosses to be available on all difficulties by the end of by the third week. And then they're also adding in a level 60 character boost. So what am I looking at here? What's my overall perspective of that post and in general? Well, I think they're adding kind of the usual stuff. There's nothing here that's, this is really going to blow me away. This is really a significant change compared to everything that we've had before. I'm not seeing that. I really am not seeing that. All I'm seeing is more of the same stuff we expect. We do expect a content patch. We do expect new content. We do expect new zone even towards the end of it. We had one in Legion, for instance. So we do have those kind of expectations from Blizzard, but is this going to be enough to get people excited for them to want to jump back in to World of Warcraft to Shadowlands, given the overall impressions that people have had of Shadowlands right now? I don't think so, and I think that one of the things they're not talking about at all, which they should be talking, is the community. As I've talked about this in other videos, the community is the biggest problem right now in World of Warcraft. If they don't take direct steps to address those, if they just keep piling content, it's like, oh, we're adding tier sets, we're adding that. Okay, but how are we going to fix the community? How are we going to fix the economy? How are we going to fix the botting? How are we going to fix the cell runs? All that stuff. Do you even care? It feels like to some extent they're just going through the motions. Like they had a plan for Shadowlands, they're sticking to that plan, regardless of how much Shadowlands has been going down in flames lately. In a way, they're kind of rushing as well, like you could say, with the PTR and all that. They're trying to get it out quickly, it feels like, because they know that things are not great right now. Will it be enough? I can't really say. From my perspective, would this make me personally want to resubscribe just purely for Shadowlands, just to play for this? Not necessarily. I will resubscribe for Classic Fresh, Season of Mastery. I'm interested in it. I don't have very high hopes for that either, but would this get me excited to try it out? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Like, I haven't seen enough. From what they've shown me, I'm not really that excited, to be honest. Story-wise, it's like, that guy in the video said, oh, I'm very excited for the story. Like, a lot of people just plainly aren't very excited for the story. They think the storyline of Shadowlands is just something to throw away in the trash bin at this particular point. And they're particularly angry with Sylvanas. They don't particularly like what they've done with the Jailer, and so on and so forth. So I think that what they're doing right now just isn't going to be enough. It's not going to revitalize the community. That I think they need to do more. That's where I stand. Final note, we did have that leak. There were some things that leak got right, or some of the titles were close enough, though it was Fate of Eternity versus End of Eternity, which is what we ended up with. They did get Zereth Mortis right, but that's something we already had out there. One of the things that the leak was saying is like faction unification. That's not happening. I would have been shocked if it was happening. It feels like the leak had some kind of accuracy with some of the titles, but they were also making shit up. So we'll see what ends up happening. Maybe with that Awakening leak, maybe the only things that are accurate, and even then to a degree, the titles of things could be accurate, not necessarily their plans. We'll see what ends up happening with all of that. Costinier signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications. And please let me know, how do you feel about this? Do you think that what Blizzard is doing is enough for you to play Shadowlands again? Is it going to be enough for you to resubscribe, or even if you haven't canceled your subscription, to put in a lot more time than you already have? Like if you've just stopped playing to a significant degree, do you think this is good enough? I'm skeptical, but we'll see what happens.